Okay, so we're reading from a book here by my spiritual master, Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. And it's just a little couple paragraphs here on with this subject title, Are You the Mind? So, while you may correctly understand that you are not your physical body, you may incorrectly conclude that you are the mind. The mind, however, is not the self any more than the body is. You are not your mind. There are various methods for realizing that you are not your mind. Here's one. Find an object and stare at it intensely for a minute. Okay? That object can be just about anything, but it should have a definite shape or form. Okay? So I'm just going to improvise this a little bit and kind of guide you through this meditation because I think I've got it down. All right, so let's. Can you all see the picture of Radha Krishna above my head? Okay, so let's look at that for just a few seconds and just get an imprint of it in your mind. Now, I'm not even looking at it, but I can already see it in my mind. So, so once you've got that, in your eyes, and then close your eyes and look at that form now, not with your physical eyes, but now you're looking at it in your mind. Okay? So, you're viewing it in your mind. Okay? Now, try to think about something completely different. Now, I'll give you something to think about. How about a horse running through a paddock? All right? So, everybody can imagine a horse running through a paddock. Now, this paddock has beautiful mountains in the background, with white snow-capped mountains in the background. And so this horse is running as fast as he can, galloping through the field. And now the horse gets to the end of the field, and there's a lake there, a beautiful crystal lake, and the horse is drinking from the lake. All right, so now just imagine you can see the horse in your mind drinking from the lake with the mountains in the background. Now let's see. Let's watch another little movie. Okay, let's watch now a spaceship going up into space. Okay, so it's in Houston, Texas, at NASA launch center, right? So you know how it goes. It's like all this rocket smoke and everything, rocket fuel smoke, and so it's like, it's getting ready to go, and then it shoots up into the atmosphere, and then gradually goes up into the sky till you can't see it anymore. Okay? Now, we're going to go back to this vision that was above my head of Radha Krishna above my head. So, put that back in your mind now. Okay. Now, just watch that for a minute, okay? Or not for a minute, but just have it there in your mind for a little while. Now we're going to take a little break from controlling what we're watching, and we're just going to let the mind go wherever it wants, and we're not going to try to control it one way or the other. We're just going to observe where it goes. All right? So just do that for a little while. Okay, so now you can open your eyes, or if you like to keep them closed, you can. But consider this. Who was viewing the image that was impressed upon the mind? Who was actively trying to keep the image from leaving the mind? Who was watching the various images that stream past on the movie screen of the mind? Who tried to bring back the original image? Who tried to clear the mind of all thoughts? All these questions have the same answer. It is you. You are the self. You are the entity distinct from the mind. So, just like you're watching a movie screen, there's you sitting in the movie theater, and then there is a screen that you're watching, right? We are watching a movie going on there. We're watching the horse running, right? you're watching the spaceship taking off. Did everybody see a spaceship taking off in their mind? And the horse? Yeah? So there's somebody watching, right? There's somebody viewing the image of the mind. So there's like it's like a movie screen. It's basically like a movie screen. So there's the screen, and then there's you. You are different from the movie screen, right? Just like there's a funny story once. This person who was out, I think it was in South America somewhere, and a friend of mine was reading this article, and he relayed the article to me, and the article said that he took these people that lived there. They basically lived in a remote area of the mountains in South America or something like that, right? And he made friends with this Aboriginal group of, like, South American Indians or whatever you call them. What do you call them in South America? You guys went to South America, right? Incas? Yeah, okay. So the Incas, right? So they took these Incas who had never seen any movie or have ever been to any kind of, like, civilization or anything. So he thought it would be funny to take them into a movie theater and see what would happen, right? Can you imagine? Like, so he took them into the movie theater, and it just happened to be a movie about cowboys and Indians. And so anytime there was an arrow shot, they'd be ducking down under the seat because they didn't really have any concept that it was a movie, right? So that's what we're like with our minds. All these images come up in our minds, and we think that it's us, it's real, but it's actually separate from us. It's not really us. See? So that's really interesting. Yeah. Another way you can see that you're separate from the mind is like when you're reading a book, and this is me every time I read a book, pretty much. Is I'll read through, my eyes will be going along the lines, and then my mind will wander off into some other subject, and I'll turn. Usually it's when I turn the page. I'll turn the page, and then I realize, fuck, I wasn't thinking about anything that's on the page. So then what I do is I put the page back, and then I make an effort to focus the mind more intently, and like, okay, thing, let's get your act together here and focus on this subject matter, right? So in this way, you can see that you're trying to focus something. There's you, the person who's trying to focus a thing, right? So the mind is separate. The mind is like the thing you're trying to focus. Just like Unique is focusing a camera lens, right? He's focusing the camera lens on me, right? So there's Unique, the person who's the focuser, and then there's the thing that he's focusing, right? So in the same way, a person trying to read a book, he realizes his mind has got out of focus, so he tries to bring the focus right back onto the book, right? So you're working with something else, and like a bad camera lens, sometimes it just can't focus, Sometimes it's really difficult to focus the mind. Sometimes it's extremely difficult on some days. So your mind is so caught up on something that it's very difficult to focus it on any subject matter. So that's how you should see the mind, as it is. It's something that is separate from you, that you need to work with, that you're working with. Okay? So the mind is, just a little bit more about the mind. The mind is like a recording device. Anything that you've experienced with your senses is there, recorded in the mind. It's all there. It might not be right there. You might not be able to fish it up right away. Just like a computer, sometimes it takes time to search, right? And most people don't have access of everything that's stored there, but it is there. We just don't have the right search engine, But it's there. Sometimes some people have a stronger search engine than other people, They can find things up. My search engine is shit. It's like one of the original search engines. Like, I don't even have the 2.0, the original one. But so anyway, it's like it's all there. Everything's there, recorded in the mind, and we see the world through this lens. It's like the mind is also like a lens that makes it so we see things differently than than how they actually are a lot of the time, or most of the time actually. And I'll give you a little example of this. Like, okay, you got two people looking at a woman, right? You got two people looking at a woman. There's a woman, and there's two guys looking at it. The first guy just spent his whole last week watching, I don't know if you guys have this in Australia, but in America we have this thing called I think it's called the Surgery Channel or something like that, where they actually show footage of surgeries all the time. I guess people are into that, right? So they have like the Surgery Channel. They have that here, yeah, okay. So you can watch, so imagine you're watching the Surgery Channel all week long, right? You're in a dark room, nothing but the TV and the Surgery Channel, right? And you see operations on bodies and all week long. And then you walk out of that room and you see a woman. How are you going to look at her now, right? You look at her in terms of what's inside, like under the skin, the blood and the guts and all that stuff, right? That's how you look at her now. Now you have another guy, okay? This guy's in another dark room with a TV, watching nothing but pornography, okay? And then he gets out of that room, and how does he look at that woman? You see? In a completely different way. Because of what he's been doing with his senses, it acts like this filter, which a neutral image will appear completely different depending on what you did with it, right? So what we do in our life with our senses affects what's there in the mind, and it creates a certain type of consciousness. So whenever we hear something, whenever we see something, we see it in that particular light from what we have been doing with our mind and our senses, okay? So it's not that our actions and our mind are somehow separate. It's very connected. It's not that you can just do all kinds of, you can do a certain thing and expect that you'll have a peaceful, clear mind because it's connected to what you're doing, So it's very important. What we do with our senses directly affects the mind. They're so connected. It's just like, it's just like our health and what we eat. It's the health of the body and what we eat. It's directly connected because what we eat directly affects how we feel and how our body feels. Same way, what we do with our senses has a direct effect on how we see the world and what's in our mind. Okay? So that's all. So we can see a little bit from this class is, number one, that we're separate from the mind, and number two is that what we do with our mind, what we do with our senses is very important and affects the mind. Does anybody have any questions on that?